Crisis averted. Yeah, anywho, thank you guys for joining, for supporting Games Matter. We're going to start the interview with David Amador. Or did I say that right? Please tell me I said
Yeah,
that right.
yeah, you said that right. Hi there.
This is David Amador. This is Nelson and Mega Pie Man. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting Games Matter. So, I guess the first question is, how would you describe Quest of Dungeons to uninitiated? What were you looking at here?
So, Quest of Dungeons is a roguelike. For those who aren't familiar with the particular genre, it has a particular set of features that all roguelikes have. Like, it has procedural dungeons, permadeath. When you die, you have to restart. Um, it has RPG elements. You can evolve, killing monsters. And what I tried to do with Quest of Dungeons was trying to bring some of those core features that could be a bit too heavy intensive for new players to be a bit more simpler. Because a lot of people wouldn't play roguelikes because it has a lot of things to equip or a lot of stuff to deal with. So I tried to make it a bit more simpler to people who never played them, but still having all the traditional features that all of them have.
So, did you develop the game entirely by yourself, like the art style and everything, or how did that work? Did you use an engine? Did you create the music? How much did you? What role did you serve in the development of Quest of Dungeons?
So I made the whole code base. I made the engine myself. It's not Unity or something like that. As for the art, it was someone else. It's actually using an art pack from Oryx. A lot of people know him, and that's why some of the art is similar to other games. So it's not some of the stuff on the game is not exclusive. I didn't have the money to like pay for an exclusive art. Same for the sound. I actually made the sound effects myself. I recorded some stuff and altered it in some software. But the team was pretty much just me. So I had the idea, I know what I wanted to do, so I tried to collect everything else I needed from other places. And I made the whole code. That was the main.
Oh, awesome! So, why did you decide to make a 16-bit RPG? Was it nostalgia? Did you grow up with these games, or was it an experiment from your usual? Why a 16-bit RPG roguelike?
Actually, yeah, I grew up playing a lot of old school games, Zelda and all those kind of games. But the decision to make a pixel art game was because my previous games, I had the art was very stylized. It has a lot of detail. So I wanted to like break a bit from that. I wanted to make something entirely different in terms of art. So I went with this style, and it helped me bring some of the old school things I liked in the games I played when I was a kid. So that was the it wasn't like a decision I made. I really want this, but it kind of it kind of happened. Like I wanted to make an old school game, so I happened to find the exact art style I wanted. Like I saw the art before I made the game, so it went like that.
Awesome, awesome. So, before you made Quest of Dungeons, starting from the beginning, how did you get into game development? Have you always been a game designer? Did you learn recently with the rise of, the new game development tools such as RPG Maker and Unity and etc.?
I always wanted to make games ever since, even before when went to high school. But I started making my first experiments in 2002, 2003. But very simple things, never like full games or just putting stuff on screen. In 2005, 2005, after I was in high school still, I managed to find the job on an actual game company. They were needing some new uh, employees, so I went and I entered. So I started learning how to make games with people who were making games. But eventually, in 2008 or 2009, I think it went bankrupt, and I started making games by myself as an independent because I started seeing other people. At that time, it was World of Goo and Braid, all those games, and I thought, yeah, I think I can. I know some stuff now, and I think I can make one by myself. And I started like that. So I've been making games as an independent for 5 years now. But I
Wow.
started making games much long a while back ago. So
So how did you find your specialty as far as you're mainly a programmer, from what I've heard. So how did you find your specialty? Did you just sort of figure, hey, I'm not that great at art, and have you always loved math? How did you find your specific specialty? Because a lot of people who come into game development, they're often confused about, what their role is, it will be, or what they're going to be good at.
sure, sure. No, I actually experimented. I went to high school as a programmer. I decided that I wanted to write code, but I always liked to draw, and I actually took one or two 3D. I know how to make 3D stuff, more or less. Like I don't have that much skill, but I took a course of that. I made from Autodesk, I think. I studied for a couple of months, but I wasn't that good. So eventually, I decided instead of spending half of my time trying to improve in my modeling skills and the other half in coding, I should just code because I'm better at this. So I decided on that moment after experimenting with two different areas. But when I went to high school, I decided to go with coding because uh, that was my first approach with games. When I started playing games in a computer, I quickly tried to alter text files and stuff that you could change to make the game to switch things on the screen. Like I remember buying a magazine that brought a simple coding software. I can't remember the name exactly, um, but it was all text based. So I knew that okay, to make games I have to code. So when I went to high school, I specifically chose programming because I thought that would be the faster uh, way to get into game development.
Cool. So when you were getting your first job with the game development company, how did you get your job? Because it's pretty hard getting into game development
Uh,
usually, right?
Yeah, it's a bit hard. I think I had they were starting the company. Actually, the company existed before, but there was only the owners, and they wanted more. They needed more people, and I volunteered to work there for a couple of weeks to like show what I could do, like to learn and to show what I could do. So they gave me a month to make Pac-Man or something. I think it was Pac-Man, and at the end of that they hired me. So I guess that worked, but. But it was pretty much that. I went there two or three times, knocking at their door. I really want to work here. I really like to make games. So eventually they gave it a try, and I really learned a lot there. So it went well.
S- So working with an established, so what was the difference working at a relatively established game company versus working for yourself in independent development? What was the big difference for you? Was there a huge difference?
The huge difference is making everything for yourself. I didn't had that clue. I thought I could do everything, but it's much harder because sometimes when you're working as a team, things show up done. Even if it's you or if it's your someone else, and we tend to forget that someone did that. Someone took an entire day or a week or a month doing so. So my first impact was, oh, I need someone to do that. If someone doesn't do that, if I don't do this, nobody's gonna do it for me. So that was like the really main difference. It's a lot of work. It's really a lot of work to be done. Even if it's not coding, like marketing or all that stuff.
So, when did you decide that it was time to go into independent development yourself? Yeah, what was the time period?
When that first company I got the job, they went bankrupt, and at that time I decided, well, I'm from Portugal. There aren't that a great amount of game development companies here, so I could either I didn't have that much know-how to work for a company in another country. So I decided to get a job in making web development, but still making indie games for myself. That was I wanted to keep making games, but since I couldn't get a job at a different company because there weren't that many, I decided, okay, it's time for try to make something by myself.
Awesome, awesome. So, you were making something by yourself. What was when did you get the big reality check that, man, this is gonna be a lot of work?
Um, on my first game, I decided. Well, actually, I chose what I thought would be a simpler game. It was a Bejeweled type of game, and I
Okay.
thought I could make this in a month or two. It actually took 6 months. So
Wow.
the reality check was when I finished when I showed the first demo, and some people were excited about it, and oh, when can I get this? And in my mind there was only 1 month, but as soon as I started making the final things, yeah, I saw that I wasn't even halfway. So sometimes because we usually think we can have the whole game in our head, but it takes time to write the code. It takes time to make the art. So
Wow.
sometimes it's difficult. On my first game, I had a lot of trouble figuring out how much time was I really going to take, because you have money for a couple of weeks or months, and suddenly you need twice as much time, twice as much money, and that was the when I started realizing, yeah, it takes a bit more planning than just, okay, I'm gonna do it.
Awesome. So, um, it's a little bit hard answering the tweets and also the interview. What we actually got a question from the chat. They said, "What frameworks slash toolkits were used to make this game?" And I know you mentioned earlier that you were using Oryx's tile set and some of his
Yeah.
graphics. So, what else was used in the making of Quest of Dungeons? Was there is it a custom-made engine, for example?
Yeah, it's a custom-made engine. I wrote it in C++ and OpenGL. It uses OpenAL and what was the other thing? It's all open source, pretty much standard open source stuff. I wrote it from scratch. Oh, it's using now. I'm using the DirectX for the Xbox version, but I wrote it because I started making this when I started making games. Unity. I'm mentioning Unity because it's the most well known today. Wasn't really a thing. So I was using XNA. I started using XNA, which was a framework made by Microsoft. And when they dropped support for XNA, I decided, okay, I should probably make my own tools and my own framework so this doesn't happen again. Because if you're using something from someone else and they decided to like cancel something, you can't do anything. So I decided to start working on my own stuff, and that went from there.
Cool. Um, and yeah, I think that that answers that question. But one thing I'm really interested about is that you said that you're in Portugal, correct? So
Correct.
usually when we talk about game development, we think about things in terms of the development culture in the United States. So what are the big differences between perhaps game development in what's the big I guess what I'm trying to say is, what's the what is it like developing a game in a different country than the United States?
Well, I can't exactly speak how it is to make a game in the United States. I have some clues because I talk to some people, but we have a lot of difficulties here, but I know it's difficult everywhere. But in particular with in cultural meaning, because people here, like the general audience, they don't think as games still as an industry, like something that's a business. They still see games as kids playing games, just kids playing games. It's not something that it can be a job, for example. It's hard explaining. It's still hard explaining to, I don't know, your parents that you want to make games. And I don't know if I know in some countries it's still hard, but everyone sees it as something that's growing, something that can be a job. People can start companies and make a lot of money, but over here, still people still, oh, okay, making games. So what's your real job? I still got, I still get that question. So I go to some place and I say, oh, I make games, and people ask me, so what's your real job? So that's still something, and that leads to being hard to find funding or going to the bank ask for a loan for making a game. That doesn't happen here. So it's pretty much working. I've been working a day job sometimes, and I code during the night. Sometimes I take a couple of months off work to work full time. So it pretty much works like that here. People have to pay everything from their pocket. I know this happens in a lot of countries. I know it's I'm not complaining, but I think that's the main problem in Portugal right now. But things are starting to get better. There are a lot of companies being created right now, people working on games full time, so that's good. Hopefully they can make something that people see as made in Portugal and it's good, and there should be more people making games over there.
Absolutely. One interesting thing is that you said your first game you thought that would be very simple was a Bejeweled type game. So have you been able to release your games commercially from the very beginning? Is Quest of Dungeons the first one to hit Steam, for example?
Quest of Dungeons is the first to hit Steam, but it's not the first commercial one. But it's the first to uh, reach Steam. I tried with all other ones, but this was the first one.
Did you have to go through the green light process?
Yeah, I went to the green light process and it got approved.
How long did it take?
6 days.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, I got extremely lucky on that one. But yeah, it was really fast. I don't really know how, but because I released the trailer for the game on the same day I created the Greenlight page, and people started voting, and for my surprise, it was approved 6 days later. Because I had one of the previous games over there for, I don't know, over a year. It had 10% or so, from the minimum required, so I didn't have that much expectations, but I still tried it. I thought, what the heck, let me try it. But it went much better than the other ones.
So for those who are coming in that are new, who are saying that it does look pretty similar to some of the things that you discussed earlier about Oryx's tile set, can you explain what Oryx's tile set is for the uninitiated?
So Oryx Set is a pack of sprites that anyone can. They have to purchase a license from Oryx, and they can use it for their game commercially. Alter the sprites, make their own games. It's a cheaper way for people that don't have that much money to pay an artist for original art. And they can use it to make even prototypes or just for game jams. Some people like to use it on game jams. It's paid, but it's much less than paying a person to make everything from scratch.
Oh, cool. So one thing I just saw that popped up for the stream is that you get quests while you're going through this dungeon. So
Yes.
is there a significant story behind Quest of Dungeons?
There's a story behind Quest of Dungeon, but it's not a significant one. I made that on purpose. The main story about around Quest of Dungeons is there's an evil lord. It's called evil lord on purpose. It's generic. There's an evil lord who stole all the light from the world, and it trapped it into a lantern. So your goal is to go into the dungeon, fight him, and restore the light by breaking the lantern. What I tried to make the story is there are 4 heroes, and three of them convince the other one to go alone into the dungeon because it's a good idea. So that's
So it's
the
like,
main.
hey, you should probably slay the evil monster. We're gonna hang back.
Exactly, that's it. I had to put a back because I wanted to put a backstory, but not something that was too much complex. Sometimes people skipped it, so I made that on purpose. It's just a small joke around some of the, those old movies where there's something behind the door. Let me check what it is.
The horror movies where they do this dumbest thing possible.
Exactly, that's it.
So you have your 4 heroes. How did you decide upon the classes that you would include in the game and the archetypes that you? Because usually, you usually do have the archer, the knight, the warrior. I'm sorry, the archer, the mage, archer, mage, warrior, and thief. Those are the usual archetypes. But how did you decide upon how you would make them sort of distinct for your game? And was it difficult finding a balance so that it wasn't too easy for any one class?
The balance was a bit hard, yes. I went with the traditional warrior and the wizard, so they're pretty much standard. One is much stronger than the other. The one has magic. And for the other ones, I made the shaman is a mix between the warrior and the wizard. So he has magic, but he also has some swords that you can use. He's not as strong as the warrior, and he's not as powerful as the magician, but it's a mix between both of them. And yes, I can't really remember the thief, the assassin, but why I chose him in particular, but I decided at first I went with the regular ones like the warrior, and then I just mixed it in a bit and tried to make them as balanced as I could, so it wouldn't feel that much easier or that much harder.
Interesting. So one thing is, especially as the archer, it's a little bit easier to stay farther away from your enemies. So, did you ever sort of feel like especially as someone who's building the game, the many stories that you hear is that it's very hard to make the game too hard because you get good at it because you have to play it over and over and over to make sure that it's made well. So, did you ever run into a situation where you made things too hard and you received feedback that it was insanely difficult?
Yeah, I I received that a lot, especially when I was making the initial beta testing, just internally, like sending to some friends. Some of them thought the game was like impossible because I was starting to get really good at it, and I thought maybe this is still too easy, and I kept pushing it. But eventually, I had to tone it down a bit, and that's when I decided to put when you start a new game, you can choose a set of difficulties like normal, hard. That's when I made that because I was feeling that even if I kept tuning it, there was always someone saying it's too easy, it's too hard, and it's difficult because some people have a different approach to the game, and it may feel very easy, and for other ones it may feel too hard. So I decided, okay, let me have an option here so people can explicitly say I want to challenge or I want to just go play it on an easier setting. But I know that there's still some unbalance on some situations. I know it. Sometimes I think I should. You talked about the assassin. He's a ranged character. He's much easier than the other ones usually, because of that. But I left it because some people want to finish the game, independent of if it's with a more difficult character or a easier one. They want to finish the game, so I left it with the conscience that it's a bit easier, but people when they play it, okay, they manage to finish the game, and if they want a more challenging experience, they can pick one of the other ones on a more difficult level.
Ah, interesting. So, is there several difficulty levels for Quest of Dungeons, or is it just based on player skill and what character you choose?
No, there are each of the there are 4 different difficulty levels: easy, normal, hard, and hell. And each one of the each one of the different classes is a bit. Some of them are a bit easier than the other ones. It's not a big difference. The most distinguishable one is the assassin, the range one, but the other ones are very much similar.
Okay. One thing I noticed was that when you look at the sprites and etc., the characters are sort of gender neutral, so it doesn't explicitly say a he or a she. Was that intentional?
It wasn't at first. It wasn't, but then it kind of. I kind of tried to make it that way because someone actually asked, "Where are the female characters?" But that was more of a art limitation than because I had no problems in putting, but the game was pretty much almost near shipping, so I tried to make it so that the person could identify with the character without, oh, it's a guy or it's a girl or.
That's very cool. That's very cool. And actually, I Need Diverse Games is one of the people who showed a lot of interest in the game when it was announced for Games Matter, so that was really cool as well.
Okay.
Speaking of starting your own thing in marketing, was it difficult getting out the word about Quest of Dungeons when you announced it, or even just any of your independent games?
It's usually that's usually hard to get the game out there, getting people to know it, because there's always someone that will like your game. There's always someone that will hate it, but there's always someone that will like it. The problem is reaching all those people. It's very hard. With this game, I had to say that I had luck with this one because the game was approved on Steam very fast. I still don't know exactly how, because I did the same thing as I did with the other ones, except it's a different game, so maybe this one is a bit better than the other ones. I tried the same thing because the game didn't have that much media coverage in websites. If you
Ah,
Google it,
okay.
if you Google the game a bit, you can probably find a lot of people playing it on YouTube, but it didn't show up on, I don't know, Rock Paper Shotgun or Kotaku. It didn't show up on any of those websites. And I tried. I sent emails to all of them, and codes for. I tried the same things that I tried with the previous ones. I actually had more media coverage with my first game, because it won a first prize in one competition, and it got a good place in another one. So I got a pretty decent media coverage. It even showed up on Kotaku, but this one was a bit different. Like, it's word of mouth. I don't know how to explain it. I know people. Sometimes I see people tweeting about the game to other, like, suggesting people to try it out, but it's not being. It's you. If you search websites, there aren't a
Huh.
lot of them talking about the game. So in terms of marketing, my strategy didn't work for the general media, because I'm not seeing the big websites talking about it. So I still failed on that part somehow. Uh, but the game had was relatively successful in terms of people know it. Some people know it, and people are still buying it. But that was something that happened for some reason. I don't know if I'm explaining this well, but it's a bit weird. I still don't know when I'm for my next game. I still don't know how to use the same strategy, because I have no idea. I'll do the same things that I did for all the games, like showing demos and writing emails to press, uh, but I don't know. Oh, okay, this works. I can do this every time, because I actually think I got lucky. Like, the people liked the game and started talking to each other, and that rolled from there. They shared the videos, and it has uh, on the on Steam and the mobile pages where you can purchase the game. The reviews are mostly positive, so that helps. So that's about it.
Awesome. And actually, I need Diverse Games who's in the chat. They said if you let them know how they can help promote the game, then they'd be happy to help you
Oh,
in
sure,
any way they
cool.
can.
Thanks.
And also, Jupiter Hadley, she says, if you put me into your contacts, I write YouTube and write. I'm sorry, I write YouTube. I YouTube and write for a few small places. Would be happy to check it out. So,
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's still going back to the other questions. I tried. Recently, I've been more trying to send codes to YouTubers and streamers than actually trying to contact websites, because I think it's easier to reach them, even if they don't want to play the game. Some of them don't want to play it. They usually respond, and okay, then they saw it, but they just don't want to play it, or they do want to play it.
cool. So you tend to get more of a response from a YouTuber, if anything,
Yeah,
than a traditional press outlet,
yeah.
especially as
Even if
far as I can't cover the game or I can.
exactly, exactly. At least okay, they can't cover it. That's cool.
Okay. One interesting thing you did say is that you've been sending more keys to YouTubers. How do you determine whether a YouTuber would be how to a lot of controversy has been going around about key scammers, people who impersonate popular YouTube personalities and etc. So how did you determine whether or not a YouTuber was legitimate?
Okay, so when I get an email, if they don't send the link, I usually ask, okay, because what's your YouTube channel? Like, give me a link so I can check it out. And I send the keys directly via the YouTube message channel or via Twitch message. So I respond via email. Okay, cool. I can send you a couple of keys, but I send them via the actual channel because some people impersonate YouTubers and streamers, and I had that happen. Like I sent a couple of weeks ago, I sent a couple of keys, and the guy responded, I never asked anything, so you can keep them. So that happens. That still happens. So I respond. I check the website, but I try to send the keys directly to the channel. So that way I know, okay, it's that person that's actually receiving and not someone impersonating it. Because a lot of YouTubers use Gmail address, and that's okay. So, but I need another way to check if it's legitimate. If it's legit. So.
Man, Megapie man, you are a brave man. You just played with a shaman on hell. That's yeah, Megapie man's going into there, showing off the different classes. This, woo, braver man than me. I think that the whichever class you choose, that they have pretty jerk friends. How did
Yeah, they
you
have.
how did you find the dialogue? Did you initially have a lot of developers talk about having to cut story sequences or sort of bend things a little bit so that it would fit into the gameplay rather than, the narrative obstructing the gameplay, which is definitely not what you do not want to go for. So, how did you find the right mix? Was it really easy, or what did you have to cut out things as well?
Yeah, actually, yeah, I had a pretty much, well, a sort of good idea of mixing story with a game that's usually not story driven. That first game I talked about, the Bejeweled one, the all the scenarios had a story, a backstory happening while you were playing it. So, because usually some people like to listen to the story or read it. Some people just want to skip it. So if as a designer you feel that's actually necessary, like the person needs to read the story in order to understand the rest of the game. You it's hard to you can't just not allow the person to skip it because some people want to skip it. So um, if that's a requirement, like knowing the story in order to appreciate the game, you have to find some other means to show it to the person. So on the first game, I had the story happening while you were playing it, so you could be seeing the story, the text happening while you were playing. So it wasn't okay. I have to stop playing to view this cutscene. For Quest of Dungeons, that's why I decided to make it a shorter and more a bit dumb story. And some of the characters sometimes they speak some dialogues, but they are not something that okay I need to read this. People can read it and can appreciate it, but it's not. So it's something that you can read a couple of them or not read the other ones. I I try. I usually like to a bit of story on the games, but I know that sometimes it's hard to put a story on a game just because you want a story there. So that's the mix I try to do with this one. Not very story intensive, but still having some sort of backstory. Just not just throwing the characters on the dungeon and here you go.
Hmm. Okay. We're getting a question. Is there controller support?
Not right now, but I'm working on it because
With the
so
Xbox One version.
exactly. So eventually, after I finish the Xbox version, I'm putting the game controller support on PC as well. But right now, it's just mouse and keyboard.
Okay. Uh, one thing is also a viewer pointed out, Mam Butini's, yeah, I can't read it. Too early in the morning. The game manual genders each character as male.
Oh, okay. I forgot about that. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
the game manual, it's a bit outdated also. I've been making some updates, and the manual is a bit outdated though.
Yeah. So yeah, you should see though that change at some point in the future, right?
Yeah, I have to
Okay.
check that out.
Now, you're actually Quest of Dungeons is coming to Xbox One, and so how did that come about? A lot of developers' dream is to be able to get on Xbox, so or on a console in general. So yeah, how did that come about?
Um, I tried after they announced the ID Xbox program, like where an independent developer can contact them and show what they're doing in order to see if they want to publish, if they want to the game on Xbox, not publish. I sent an email about on what I worked before, like a backstory. You usually send an email telling your backstory on game development, so they can know, okay, this guy is making games from some time or something like that. And I talked about the game I was working, that was Quest of Dungeons at that time. I was still making it. They accepted me as an Xbox developer. After that, I tried to pitch in the actual game. Like, okay, I'm making this. I have this game. It was already out at that time. I sent a demo. Actually, it didn't have any control support, so I took a big risk there. But I didn't have that much time to make the game control based, and eventually they could say they don't want the game. So I didn't have the money to spend a couple of weeks. So I sent the game with keyboard and mouse. I sent the demo and told them, okay, I have this game. I would really like to make it for Xbox. I told them the ideas I had to make it Xbox friendly with the controller, and they accepted it. They told me they would like to see it, so everything went from there.
Excellent, excellent. Um, so was it a personal dream for you to get on console? Did you grow up with consoles?
Yeah. I grew up with consoles. My first console was Super Nintendo, and I actually tried to enter with a game on the Xbox 360 when they had the Xbox Live Arcade. I tried, but they didn't want the game. So for this one, I tried it again, and this time I managed to get the game there. So yeah, it was a bit of a dream because I play usually these days I play more PC games because I played a lot of indie games, so most of them are PC. But I was always more of a console player, so it was always a personal thing that I had that I wanted to. Sometimes I want a game on a console. It feels real. I don't know.
That's absolutely awesome. And Mega Pie Man, you escaped by the skin of your teeth there, buddy. So, after Xbox One, after Xbox One and even Quest of Dungeons, what's next for you? Because this is, at least from what I've heard, this has been the one with the longest lifespan, right?
Yeah, this is this had a very long lifespan. Well, I want to make another game. That's for sure. I still don't know if I'll do this game for any other platforms. Right now, I'm just focused on this one. But I really want to do something, a new game. That's the main. That's right after I finish. I already cooking up some ideas because the hard part sometimes is actually finishing the game because you start having ideas for different things. So that's my next step, is making another one. Hopefully something that people like.
So is it going to be another roguelike, or are you planning to do another genre again?
I want to do I want to do a different genre because I've been working on this for some time and I don't have that many good ideas to put on a roguelike of this genre, but I liked a lot working with procedural stuff. As a programmer, working with procedural things is very cool because I was making some stuff for Quest of Dungeons, and you can really see the potential in making something, even if it's not an RPG. We have a lot of roguelikes in the sense of procedural things these days that are being made that have a lot of potential, like No Man's Sky. It's not
Yeah.
a roguelike, but it has procedural generated worlds. So I want to explore that a bit more, but not in the same genre. I'm not that I don't think I have that good ideas right now to make another RPG. Maybe someday, but not right now. I'm a bit tired of the genre right now.
Interesting, interesting. One thing is when you're dealing with a procedural game or anything based on systems that or that's randomly generated, it can be difficult to play test. At least that's what I've heard very often because, every player gets a different experience. Necessarily, it's gonna be hard to test all the different cases and all the different crazy stuff that's going to happen. So, how did you play test the game and how did you find place test testers? And was that a difficulty? Did you end up after release having to fix a lot of bugs?
Yeah, that was the hardest part from this game. The balance, the difficulty, balancing that stuff because you never know what the player will find. He can find something. I tried to put in a lot of rules. The game has 7 floors, and each floor has a range of um, things that can happen. You can never find a weapon larger than, I don't know, 5 points of damage, for example. On that, I set a couple of rules for each floor, so I usually know the um, the better things that the player can end up with on a particular floor. But it's still hard because sometimes he can have like the worst luck of all, and he has nothing, and the next floor will be really hard. So it was a lot of playing the game, a lot of playing it, like tweaking it every time it felt something was not that good. Um, it still has some like I'm still tweaking some stuff even for the Xbox version right now. I'm still tweaking some things because the game is a bit hard at start, and it starts to be a bit easy as you level up. The later floors are a bit easier somehow. I'm still tweaking that. I'm still tweaking that because um, I use the same rules for the later floors, but it's as I see more people playing it, that I am seeing that okay, so this still could use some touch here and over there because I don't know, 10 people playing it is one thing, and 1,000 people playing it's a different thing. So I start to see more a pattern in okay, this floor is a bit easier, it's a bit too easy.
Do you collect any data, such as, people commonly get stuck on this floor or etc.?
No, I collect some data, but it's not. It's nothing that can you help me with
Per
that. I should have done that, but I didn't place stuff like that. I have some data, like I don't know, the amount of people, the amount of time people play, how much games, how much deaths happened, how much monsters, how much boss kills, stuff like that.
Okay, so you managed to collect a lot of data in aggregate, but you made sure you wanted to make sure that you didn't collect anything that was personally identifiable.
Yeah, exactly. So I know, I don't know, 300, 200, I was just checking, I don't know, 1,000 traps triggered. But I don't know exactly which person or, because actually Steam doesn't allow it. I can't. For example, I'm collecting this data from Steam players that play on Steam, but I can't on a for user like collecting data. It's more of a global collecting, like the sum of all things that I collect, so I can get a clue on. Like I know the people tend to choose the warrior more, but they end up finishing the game with the assassin more. So they die. Usually they die. They start the game. They still don't have a lot of clue of how the game works. Some people even press the skull key like at the beginning of the game. They die, and after that they usually pick the assassin. And they, since it's easier, a bit easier, they usually finish the game with that one.
Ah, okay. And so that's the role of the assassin. The shaman is actually a pretty weird class when you look at his abilities and how he operates. Was it difficult? I mean, assassin, warrior, mage, those are easy to understand, but the shaman, was it sort of difficult to get players to understand how he should be played?
Yeah, I think people still don't. I think it's the least favorite character for most people. They don't really understand it, how it really works, and it is he needs a lot of leveling up to be a better character. He has some things that I personally it's my favorite because it's the one I made from like it's not exactly from scratch. I took some things from other classes, but I mixed it in on my own way, so it's my favorite one. But some people don't quite get, or they don't know what they're, how they should play it, because the shaman is a more um, put the defenses of the enemy, lower the defenses of the enemy, then attack. He has stuff like terror, or making the enemy sick, or he has summons, like you can have a minion fight for you. It's more of a strategically defensive character. So
Ah, okay.
it's a bit weird to play. You have to play it a couple of times to get what I was going for there, but yeah, it's probably the weird one. It's usually not that common on other games, so that's probably the other reason.
Did you ever consider multiplayer?
Yeah, I considered it for a brief time. When the game was approved on Steam, immediately everyone asked for multiplayer, but that would require me making the whole game from scratch. So I still think, oh, how this could work in a different game, like playing, I don't know, 4 players playing through the dungeon at the same time, multiplayer. But this game right now, because the game is turn-based, it's very fast to play, but it's turn-based. You can take your time. So that had to I couldn't leave that like that. It had to be like, I don't know, real time. So so another person didn't have to wait for someone else to do something, because that's really boring on multiplayer. Usually that's boring for this type of game. So I didn't come up with an idea of making it multiplayer for this game, so I gave up on that.
Okay. And you said you're introducing controller support now, and a lot of people just think, you simply just rebind the keyboard keys to controller, right? It's probably not that simple, though, is it?
No, for some games it can work more or less, but it's not. For this one, I'm remaking almost everything from all over, because the UI. We're seeing him play right now. Like the UI is all mouse driven. You can move the cursor and press everything. You have different menus all over the place. So I had to remake all the menus to work with a control. So the character moves with the directional keys. That's more or less easy. But everything else I had to remake.
Is it was it when you were looking at the different options for remaking it, did you ever consider possibly making it to where the analog stick was a cursor, and is there any problems with that option?
Uh, I I thought of it, but I don't think that's a good idea. I think that's a bit. No, I don't think people would like that. For me, if I see that on a game, it feels a bit lazy. I know sometimes it's hard to make the game work with a controller, fully controllable. But I don't think that's really for some games it may work more or less. But for this one in particular, I wouldn't like that. I like just pressing a button, accessing a menu, and that's it. Like using the directional keys just to navigate menus, not using the right analog to move the cursor around the screen to press a button on a menu. No, I don't think. For me personally, I don't like. Oh, I'm trying not to do that.
Okay. Um, was One thing I noticed is that one time Mega Pie-Man on Hell, he came out of the spawning room and instantly got attacked by a boss. Is that one of the difficulties with procedural generation? You can't really determine what is absolutely fair.
Yeah, that's tricky to determine. There are some rules that we can put in place to prevent some things happening, but it's usually tricky to. Some things I left on purpose. There's sometimes it happens. You start the game you're on the first room, and there are, I don't know, three doors. You open one of them and there's a boss already. So that's a bit unfair. You're finding a boss right away. But I left it. I could. That one is a rule that I could tweak to. I don't know. Don't leave a boss room near the starting room. But I left it anyway because the person could have chosen the other ones, and he could have traveled the whole dungeon, leveled up the character, and then you remember, oh, that door I never went. I could check it out, and he has a boss fight, and it could feel easy because he had level up. It felt hard because the person had just started, but that's tricky to balance because for the other player it would feel too easy because he leveled up a lot, and for the other one it feels too hard. So it's always hard to balance that. So it's a bit of luck also. So the player, if he starts a lot of games, he can have a lot of luck or a lot of bad luck.
Pie-Man's having pretty good luck right now. He's managing to collect a lot of beer. Is it possible to, if you drink too much beer, your character get drunk and things start
Yes.
happening to the screen?
Yeah. He can't see as much. He has a line of sight. He can't see as much distance. It can happen. So if he drinks a lot, it will probably happen. And you can't see more than two or three, more than one tile. I think you can only see up to a tile.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, so that's the danger right there. The intoxication is 10%. Oh, so is it a random chance of whether or not the intoxication hits you, or is it if your intoxication goes over 50%?
No, it's a random chance. It's 10% chance of getting. So you can drink, I don't know, 10 of them and not getting the player intoxicated, and you can just drink one and get it right away. It's a 10% chance. Oh,
So
we completed
that's
a quest.
it sounds like real life.
Yeah.
So our time with hasn't it been about an hour, Pie Man? Learn skill deep cut. Okay, so it's been about an hour. Do you have? And so yeah, I just want to thank you for coming on today and giving this very informative interview. It's been absolutely awesome.
Thank you for it.
So where can people find you? And of course, after the Games Matter event, buy the game. And yeah, any closing thoughts?
Well, they can find me on Twitter. I'm usually very, I tweet a lot more than I should, maybe. So they can find me there. They can tweet me. I'll answer or by email. I have the email on the Upfall Studios page, so they can email and ask questions. I don't mind that at all. And hopefully, if they have any questions about, I don't know, game development in general or even off the game, no problem at all answering.
Yep. So this is yep, you can find David Amador at DJ underscore link. This is Quest of Dungeons. You can get a copy on PC through Games Matter today, or you can buy a copy, support the developer. Anything, every little bit, whether it's a Steam review or a Let's Play to just a simple tweet, it all helps. And so yeah, definitely give the developer a follow. You can get a copy on Steam today, as well as where good games are sold through a few other storefronts, right?
Yeah, there's also the website, the official game website where you can get the game with DRM free and also a Steam key. So you get I think you get a better deal buying it directly from the website because you get all the except for iOS, you get all the versions: Android, PC, Mac, Linux, and the Steam key.
Oh, cool. So, yeah, this has been Quest of Dungeons with David Amador, Mega Pie Man, PhD, and Nelson. You can find him at DJ underscore link. And let me find the site real quick. Where is it? Quest of Dungeons, misspelled. Questofdungeons.com, and that will be coming to Xbox One up here soon. So yeah, definitely keep a watch, give them a follow, and thank you guys for supporting Games Matter. Bye.